Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back here for round two of the Team of Legends French LCS style tournament, and we are very, very excited to bring you this second game. Here we have on the blue team Gpulse Airswell, and on the purple team we have Gpulse. And I also brought in a co-caster with me this time. Do you want to introduce yourself, Rapid?
Why, hello there. I guess I don't need the introduction after that, but hey guys,
Oh,
what's up?
one
I'm
second. I think
Rapid.
you're really quiet, so I'm going to make you a lot louder.
Oh my, I'm not sure I need any help with that necessarily, but hopefully okay, there we go. All right, I was pretty quiet, but hopefully we'll get the voice volume equalized and should be good to go. Well, hopefully we'll get some feedback from chat. They can let us know anything. Always glad to have some feedback. But yeah, it's good to be here. Great to be joining you, Disciple, for I guess the second game of today. I just got the last one. I was actually pretty talented. I did not expect that. I don't keep up with a lot of the French scene ever since Cypher and Millennium stopped playing. I was like, okay, well, where are the French teams? And here we go. I guess we got them today. And so you mentioned Airswell versus Gpulse to start things off. I guess we're in picks and bans. You'll be able to see things before I will, but it'll be synced up later on, I suppose.
Absolutely, right now. We have next in Cassidy and Fizz coming out here from Airswell. They do not want to play against them or as them this game at all. We see Cassidy and Fizz banned out the same as last game, those very mobile mid lane assassins. Very scary for any squishy support, AD carry, or even mid laner to go up against. And the bans we didn't see last time, Corki and Jax, which were both in the last game, very strong at the moment. Corki was not able to take the win, but Jax most certainly was able to. He was able to snowball so hard.
All right, so we're gonna have bans coming out, and you see fairly standard bans, at least from Airswell, taking out the Renekton. But the Karthus ban is a little bit interesting, and unless that's a target ban that I don't know about, I would have suspected to see. Well, there's actually a lot of champions out there. You could ban out an AD carry. You could ban out Vi is another big pick that we've seen a lot in the jungle. But it does look like hovering over a Zac. Could see him back in there.
Yeah, we did have the Aatrox lock in for Airswell over here, and they could run that in the top lane or the jungle or even the mid lane if they chose to. Most likely going to be a jungle pick because I feel like that's the most common tournament meta here because he has such strong mobility and ganking as well as just complete sustain through the jungle. On their red team, it was an Orianna and a Zac lock-in. That's such a strong combo if you can get your ball right on top of an elastic slingshot Zac and then go ahead and command shockwave everyone right on top of him.
Yeah, I think that combo was referred to as the Ballista in LCS when I think it was EG did it a lot during the EU playoffs, but at least for this game, we'll be seeing out of Gpulse. The guys on the Airswell are looking for something much different. They're not picking their AP carry very early on, knowing what they're going up against. They could just go ahead and grab that. So that might be their second pick, but I haven't seen that quite yet. With such a heavy engaged composition, at least from Gpulse, that does mean that they'll be looking for a lot of dive from possibly their top laner. And keep in mind, Zac could be going top. That would set up very nicely for like a Jarvan jungle. I think that would go really well, but we'll have to see what they want to do.
And then we have the perfect response to the heavy initiate team that you mentioned, which is the Janna with her Monsoon ultimate completely resetting any team fight. And if a Zac jumps in, you can go ahead and nope him right back out of there. Ezreal as well being one of the safest AD carries with his arcane shift. Definitely a response there to the engage that they kind of played their hand right off the bat there with the first two.
Yeah, and you can see the same thing. It's not only just disengaged from Janna, you have a very mobile AD carry in Ezreal, able to arcane shift out of a lot of sticky situations. And so if you go for the Jarvan for your jungler, you just arcane shift right out of that. But it's going to be a Shyvana locked in. We've seen a lot of Shyvana being played top lane and in the jungle, so very kind of ambiguous picks between Shyvana and Zac, depending on which one you want to put where. I'd expect to see Zac top lane and Shyvana jungle, but it's definitely been done the other way around, especially with some of the changes to Zac, kind of changing up the way that his blobs work, make him much easier to get stepped on. And so, I don't know. I'd like to see Zac in the jungle and Shyvana top just because I love Shyvana top lane, and especially against Aatrox. She's very, very good at winning out those 1v1s.
Right. If it's an Aatrox top, then they're going to send Shyvana top because there's no way Zac can fight an Aatrox in the top lane. Aatrox is going to dominate that. And so it's going to be the blue team's pick here. If they choose this Nunu that they have over to right now, then that could be a jungle that'll be a jungle Nunu and then the top Aatrox. But it could be a top laner that they pick here and send Aatrox in the jungle. The Shyvana is also a very good combination with Orianna there because if the Elastic Slingshot isn't quite working out or you need an instant engage, then the Dragon's Descent can get you in the fight just as quickly, and Command Shockwave on your head can be just as devastating over here to Airswell.
All right, so that's going to be the final lock-in for Airswell. They're going to have Aatrox, like you mentioned. It's going to be really weird to see either Aatrox or Nunu in the top lane. We've seen a lot of top lane Aatrox, not so much top lane Nunu. So I would expect to see Aatrox jungle just because that's where we've seen it more often. But either way, a Nunu, not a champion to see all that often these days.
Yeah, with the changes to his consume, it definitely buffed Jungle Nunu through the roof, but it also nerfed laning Nunu since he doesn't get as much health back and he can't sustain forever. And so I'm pretty positive it's going to be a top lane Aatrox here. And then with the Syndra pickup, they definitely chose that Syndra to try to win the lane against the Orianna. Orianna wins lane against a whole lot of champions, but Syndra is one of the few that can outrange her, outdamage her, and just ultimately outmaneuver her in the mid lane. And they're going to look to Syndra to win that lane as well as possess a good amount of range and control for the team. Not a lot of mobility, so definitely a scary champion to play up against a heavy engaged team.
Now, Kialis, the support for Lowland Lions, loves playing support Syndra. If you look at his match history, he's just spamming support Syndra games. Something he's kind of innovating. I've seen it a lot more on EU West than we have, or a lot more on EU Nordic East than I have on EU West. He's definitely bringing it over to this server, and I think there's like a couple people that play it in North America, but I really want to see that support Syndra and maybe an AP mid Janna. But
Oh yeah, that's definitely what's going to happen here. Hey, it's EU. Anything can happen.
This is true, but I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that only good things will be coming our way. So I don't know exactly what to expect, but we talked about Airswell and their finalized lineup. But for Gpulse, they're going to do things a little bit differently. They do have double ball carry initiate. So if you want to go in, you're going to pick a team comp like Gpulse. You're going to have Caitlyn as well, able to maneuver just DPS from the back because she has an absolutely huge front line to stand in front of her. Shyvana diving in, Zac diving in. You have Thresh to lock the box down in front of her. You're not really going to have an easy time getting to Caitlyn.
Absolutely. Now that our spectator layer is there, we can remove our spell blockers that I had up and see the summoner spells, which were not, in fact, what were they? Fortify and promote. And I think, yeah, with this Caitlyn, with the barrier, going to be very safe there in the back lines. Like you mentioned, she has a very strong front line here with the Shyvana. Shyvana does have room to build a little bit of damage up there in the top lane, but will definitely just be naturally tanky with the Dragon form, as well as building a little bit of survivability in there as well. The Orianna with the Ignite is interesting because Orianna isn't always in range for the Ignite when you look at the range that her ball can go out to, but she might be a little bit susceptible to an early Aatrox gank since Orianna does not have much. Oh, and one thing that's one thing that we didn't notice is that the smite is actually over here on Aatrox, and Aatrox will be jungling.
Yeah, Aatrox will be jungling against Zac, which means that it was a little bit different. I expected to see Shyvana jungling for Gpulse, but she's going to be up in the top lane, so it will be Shyvana versus Nunu. And if you guys have ever played against top lane Nunu, it doesn't matter how hard they nerf that champion. It is never hard enough. Sweet Lord, that is an annoying matchup to play against. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. The only problem is that as the game progresses, you have a Nunu with a ton of CS, and I mean, if you can bait them into your team into a nice, absolute zero in a bush somewhere, that's cool and everything. But outside of that, he's just like ice balls somebody and kind of walks around a little bit, and then ice balls again, and then walks around. So annoying in lane, has a ton of sustain, but we'll have to see if that pays off later on.
Right, they might look to give some of that CS over to Aatrox. Aatrox is kind of played as a jungler where you tax the lanes, and so it might be that Aatrox will take some of the top farm, might just kind of roam out of the lanes and farm up as much as he can while getting in the ganks, because that's kind of the nature that his champion can play in the jungle, as well as if he ganks top, he's against a champion that Shyvana that can only run away unless she decides to flash until level 6. If it was a Zac, then Zac might be able to Elastic Slingshot out. But if they can get the knock up, the slow both from the Blades of Torment as well as the Ice Blast, then that could definitely be a very dangerous position in the top lane for Shyvana. And then Aatrox will also have the potential to roam, say, to the mid lane against a squishy Orianna. Probably not to the bot lane, since Caitlyn Thresh is a rather safe lane.
All right, so that's going to do it for both of our champions. I'm not sure exactly how long we have until we get into champion select.
Oh, we have about 20 seconds here.
20 seconds?
We
wow,
are so close.
I'm pretty excited. It's a best of one because we are still in group stages, so it'll be a nice opportunity to see not only some new teams, but also some teams that I haven't necessarily had a chance to see. If you guys are looking for French League of Legends action, then if you want to listen to it over in French, you can actually do that at, I think there's a link posted in chat, as well as the official stream at twitch.tv/Teams of Legend. So if you're looking for French commentary, you can go over there, or you can continue to listen to our fabulous English voices.
Right, English but American, Somewhat
American
confuses for Spuddington, and I was confused because Spuddington has a very, very thick English accent.
I think you mean a very thick British accent.
British. Oh, what? It's in England. It's in
England. Yes, but English is the language we're speaking.
Right. Well, all right, Rapid, you win this round.
British English. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, we're speaking American English over here.
I don't even know if you can call it that. We're just basically speaking American.
We'll try our best to make it as English as possible for you guys as we get into this exciting round. A new top is not something that I've seen in quite a while since those changes, so who knows, this sustain might be a little bit too much, but I feel like in team fights eventually Shyvana will have the advantage, just in flat-out damage over Nunu.
In team fights that's true, and also keep in mind Shyvana is the big initiate. So if Nunu really brings a whole lot of different things to your team composition. He's more of an anti-carry. You just snowball the AD carry, and all of a sudden he's moving slower, he's attacking slower, and it's just generally going to be a lot sadder of a person. But for Shyvana, you're looking to initiate, you're looking to get off a lot of disruption in team fights, knock everybody around, spread a lot of fire all over the ground, and you have to actually have a lot of debuffs that you can do. You can increase your damage based on a percentage of max health, and Nunu, somebody that gets a lot of health scaling per level, as well as builds a lot of tanky health items too, so that'll actually be pretty cool. The only problem is that Shyvana won't actually be able to attack all that much or really get into range, and if there's anyone that's good at kiting bruisers, it's a Nunu. So I'm a little bit skeptical on how this lane is necessarily going to work out, but we'll get a chance to see that once we get into the game.
Absolutely. I think we'll see a lot of very active ganks there from Aatrox. And Jax definitely has early gank potential, but the range on his Elastic Slingshot isn't as much as it is at max level, and he just doesn't have the damage with him early on that Aatrox has. And I think he might be looking to farm up a little bit more than Aatrox will, just because Aatrox is so powerful coming out with the Dark Flight as well as the Blades of Torment. And he could definitely pop out on an unsuspecting Shyvana who just wasn't expecting that much kite from a Nunu. And so it could be a very dangerous top as well as a mid lane with Syndra coming out with the long range on that stun against an Orianna who doesn't have an escape besides a flash. Oh, and
it should definitely be noted that Orianna and Syndra, both as far as mid laners are concerned, very immobile. So it should be interesting to see how the ganks are going to come in, just because they're very good gankers on both sides. Aatrox and Zac both have really, really strong gank opportunities. And against some less mobile mid laners, could see a lot of action there. We're going to start things off with a pause, get everybody ready to get into the game. I want to welcome you guys for Teams of Legends. It's an all-French tournament, or at least all the teams are primarily French-speaking, and if you're here from the post on Reddit, then welcome to the stream. I am Rapid, with me is Disciple, who is also graciously streaming this, so hope you guys enjoy the commentary and the games as well.
Absolutely, and we have our pause lifting. I am going to go ahead and get this overlay fixed so that we won't have the same problems as last time. And as we get in here, we see both teams just bolting down to the middle. We're going to see who wins this race here, and it's looking like it's going to blue team.
All right. Yeah, blue team definitely getting out there faster. But Purple Team will be interesting to see what they want to go for. Now, Nunu, we all know him as really, really annoying two junglers. You can get in there, consume your buff away, and then you're just generally pretty sad. But in the top lane, probably won't be going for aggressive invades, but we'll have to see what the rest of the team does. Grouping up around the red buff, nothing too aggressive by either side just yet. So it looks like both teams are just going to play this very defensively.
One thing that's nice about a top lane Nunu is that if you do get a bit of an advantage in your lane, then you can just pop into the enemy jungle at any time, just consume away either a large creep or even a buff, and then just pop right back up in lane and be in the same situation you were in, just a little bit farther ahead. And so we'll see how that lane goes. If Shyvana is able to clear out the wave and push it enough and just stay up with Nunu, that might not be a possibility.
All right, so we are going to have creeps spawning here in just a second. As far as junglers are concerned, you're probably going to see a lower side. Oh, nice. I'm not even sure how Ezreal knew that Thresh was going to be right there, but throws out a pretty random arcane or mystic shot and does hit onto Kuro. So Kuro is going to be bottom lane. Does look like both AD carry and support lanes will be bottom, so standard lanes across the map. Both junglers starting at the bottom side of the map on different buffs, but we'll just be going for that quick level 3 double buff start, possibly looking to put a lot of pressure top or mid.
I feel like Zac should probably gank top first, and Aatrox should probably go mid right off the bat. You want to keep Nunu down as early as possible before you get some levels in that Consume and in that Ice Blast. And you just want to kind of gank that Orianna as soon as you can, because if she falls low, then her Command Shockwave won't do a lot, and she'll be very, very susceptible to any damage in fights, which is something you definitely want once Dragon spawns and once you start to get in that mindset of things.
All right, now it's not full AP Nunu. He's going to have a little bit of additional stats in there. No Spell Vamp either from Runes or Masteries. He is running pretty standard AP tank masteries, so nothing too surprising there. Going up against a Shyvana. Now, Shyvana started out with pretty low magic resist and only 38, whereas she has 44 armor and is really prepared for a more AD heavy matchup. Bottom lane, hook lands on to Mind. He's gonna be forced to pop that barrier. Shield comes in from Janna as well, so a lot of shielding going on there. So either way, really going to be a rough lane. Anything's rough against Caitlyn, but also as long as Kuro keeps landing those hooks, it's going to make it a lot more difficult for Mind in position.
Absolutely. It'll be a little bit better now that Janna has level 2 and can level up either the Zephyr or the Howling Gale. Just the ability to disengage will be so strong in this lane as Mind just wants to farm up early against Ledroid Treffle here, who just as Caitlyn is doing exactly what you need to do, get early level advantage, push up, and just harass the enemy AD carry. And now with the spot frozen at the turret, Mind is actually in a pretty good spot to farm up on Ezreal.
There we go. It's going to be Zac bouncing in on to Syndra, forcing that flash out and taking Syndra way down to about 300 HP. Will be forced to burn both of her potions if she wants to stay in lane. But it looks like bottom lane is going to be a first gank for Aatrox, forced to flash out of Treffle and makes it back to the turret. Kuro making it back there as well, but double flashes burned and incredibly strong ganks from both junglers. Top lane looks like we will have Uncle Soviet flash away. Is the Ignite burning down going to be enough? And it looks like no health potions. Pretty good items, Disciple.
Gosh darn it, everything's happening so fast I can hardly keep up with it on the camera. But oh my goodness, in the mid lane we have the first blood going down to the auto attack from Runaway on Orianna, taking it down with the Ignite. And very good presence there from Halesio, blowing the flash and then coming right back to claim the kill.
Yeah, I like to call those kind of NASCAR ganks, and if you're watching from France, maybe we can call it I don't know. I was thinking Tour de Force, but that's cycling. I don't actually know. Maybe Formula One racing. I'm not sure what the premier European Formula One track is. But yeah, you just kind of make a trip through the lane and then come back around in a circle. Make sure you're pretty good at turning left and just wind up right back in the lane again. And against immobile AP carries, once you burn their flash, you're gonna have a really good kill potential. And that's exactly what we just saw. Halesio helping out, giving Runaway the first blood of the game. Well, she'll be able to come back in the lane with a lot more mobility, maybe trying to avoid the same downfall that Chris Master just had in lacking that mobility and then getting punished for it.
Absolutely. Those early level 2 boots are definitely going to help outmaneuver the enemy AD carry or AP carry, sorry, with both auto attacks and positioning the ball in that lane. Potentially an early Chalice of Harmony would have been the other decision there for the mana regeneration, but right now he's valuing the mobility. It also gives him some nice combat statistics with the magic penetration, which is very, very powerful early on, and so we could potentially see another follow-up gank. You know, Syndra's flash is still down for a very long time. If we saw another follow-up gank, that could completely keep him down, keeping from getting to the point where he can burst down an enemy AD or AP carry.
All right, now Zach's in the area, but is probably just going to go back. I'm going to take this opportunity to arrange the champions on my scoreboard so that I can
As will I.
see where everything is. It looks like first item are Boots of Mobility on Zach. Now, you see a lot of like either Aatroxes or Lee Sins go for or even Jarvan the Ports. They love going for those early Boots of Mobility because they can just run around and be ganking forces in all the lanes at the same time. Now, Zach is extremely mobile when he maxed out that Elastic Slingshot, and so it's kind of confusing me to see early Boots of Mobility, but it is still going to perform the function of helping him get into lane, and it looks like he's going to look to push some pressure top lane, as now Felash is going to take an Ignite.
The Ignite went down. He's
Yeah,
just gonna swag walk away from this. Let's see if Uncle Soviet can catch up here even. Does not get the E. The knockup lands, but Uncle Soviet's too far behind.
Yeah, and even though Feelhack had no mana, he didn't really need anything. All he had to do was just walk away, and walking away a pretty good, pretty effective way at dodging out away from ganks. With no red buff and no consistent means of slow, Alessio just walks back out of lane, and Feelhack was pushed out of lane, and anytime you push a Nunu out of lane, you're accomplishing a pretty monumental feat right there. But goes back, picks up a Chalice of Harmony, a Doran's Ring, along with a Flask and some consumables, and it's going to come back to lane even stronger.
And you can see the accomplishment there, the major accomplishment, was just getting, like, hopefully getting Shyvana even in farm again. We can see that Shyvana had fallen about 15 behind and is now going to catch up a little bit with the wave, shoving in the turret, denied Nunu some CS, but Shyvana's having a rough time with Nunu consistently shoved up to the turret.
But I'm going to give a shout out to Alessio. He's really doing a good job being all over the map, really making the most of those mobility boots. He ganked mid lane twice, then walked top lane. Now he's giving blue buff back away to the AP carry. And so Runaway is going to be running away with that one as Alessio looks to run bottom lane maybe. No ward coverage down there at all for Gpulse. So really, if you look on the map, no wards at all for Gpulse. So definitely needing to get a few more of those out. There's one in the bottom lane brushes. I take it back.
Ooh, they should be playing Lee Sin because they're doing it pretty blindly here. But Zach able to potentially maneuver around here, but he's going to run out of a pink ward. They're going to see him, and he's not going to be able to get into anything here. And the laning is actually going in the favor here of Ezreal in the bot lane. He's about 12 ahead. That's 2 entire waves of CS over on a Caitlyn, which is not something that you see pretty often in this matchup.
Yeah, mine and Baldergate actually doing extremely well at putting on pressure. Usually you don't say the words pressure and then against a Caitlyn in the same kind of sentence, but actually shoving both Caitlyn and Thresh back to lane already. And keep in mind, this is after Thresh actually started off winning the lane by burning out that barrier from Ezreal, as well as landing a couple of nice death sentences to really punish him for playing so aggressively. But now with all the ward coverage that Baldergate has established bottom lane, you can see them just basically push all the way up to the turret, not really care about getting ganked because there aren't really all that many avenues to gank them from.
Absolutely, the ward coverage is definitely keeping them safe here, and it's what they need to just continue to push these lane advantages. Besides the Syndra, who's fallen a little bit behind in the mid, I mean, Ezreal's doing such an excellent job farming up. He's going to get that Trinity Force pretty quickly, unless he decides to go for an Iceborne Gauntlet, which is what we saw last game, which was an interesting pickup. It ended up working for them very, very well. But Nunu in the top lane is only about 11 CS ahead, but he's doing a very good job of bullying Shyvana out. And this is just kind of lane domination coming out from blue team, with the Aatrox just kind of farming the jungle. He hasn't really had any presence in the lanes, and he's right now about 16 CS ahead of this Zach.
All right, so Zach has been focusing on ganks, has gotten a successful gank off, but Aatrox just farming things up like a monster, sitting at 45 CS. Those double Doran's blades looking to get in there onto the middle lane. You can see all of a sudden R button pressed as unstoppable force, or rather unleashed power, goes in the middle lane to flash dive and massacre, aptly named, taken runaway back to base and Scar City. I did not expect that engage, just went so hard for it, flashing in, but in the end was able to even up the kills at 1-1.
Right, Chris Meister went in very strangely through the ult. If Runaway would have just backed off, that would have been an ult down for Chris Miser, but instead he decided to turn around with the command Shockwave, did force the flash out of Syndra, but then got caught out by the flash Dark Flight from Scarcity, which was very, very well played, able to close so much distance, and then put out a lot of burst damage with the Massacre as well, the Blades of Torment, and a very excellently played gank. He will be able to come back with quite a bit of gold now on 51 CS and a kill on that Aatrox, and a jungle Aatrox can definitely compete with a lot of laning champions if he just gets a little bit of gold from both the jungle and the lanes from ganks like we just saw.
All right, top lane is not going to be a good place to look every once in a while if you're fans of Gpulse, because Uncle Soviet really having a rough time. Pushed all the way to his turret, has tried to buy up some regen and double rejuvenation beads, hoping to pick up a Tiamat here in just a little bit, just to at least have some wave clear, but he's going to be a long way out from that. Bottom lane, we're going to have Halesio dropping a little bit of slowdown on the Baldur Gate, but with not a lot of follow-up, I'm not too sure how effective that's going to be, just trying to relieve a little bit of pressure, but you can see right there for the counter gank, Scarcity looking to get in there to the bottom lane, top lane. Ice blasts continue to land onto Uncle Soviet, and there's actually Dragon Form out there. Uncle Soviet will be forced to flash out of the Absolute Zero. Don't think that was necessarily necessary, but either way, it's going to keep the turret alive for just a little bit longer. But Uncle Soviet ult down and out of lane. Leaves that top lane up to Feelbot.
Bot lane was a bit of a scruffle as just both sides tried to run at each other but couldn't quite get at each other. The ult from Ezreal just to clear out the waves, but the Death Sentence missing definitely passed up a potential engage, but it was a 3v3, so it could have gone either way there. Leroy Corrode probably should go back soon since he's sitting on a 0 item build and might want to pick up some statistics against Janna, who still has a little bit of regen on her. Right now we do see Airswell picking up a vision advantage around the Dragon Pit, pinking that out. They do have the potential to go for that in the future if they do get an advantage, either taking a kill or spotting the jungler up in the top lane, and so we'll see how they react to that. But Scarcity is going to fall back to jungling. He's been doing a very good job of just continuing to farm it out. Has his Bilgewater Cutlass, is going to be going for a Bladed Ruin King for his first item, and upon spotting Zac in the mid lane, he might be looking here to gank, thinking Zac left.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, Zac is still there, looking to get in there, and will have range to initiate. If you notice, he's actually maxing out his Searching Strike for the slow percentage instead of maxing Elastic Slingshot, like you'd expect from a lot of junglers. So, looking to go top lane now is Feelhawk, looking to go back to base, but could actually have really apt back timing as Halesio kind of walking around bottom lane, though. Scarcity's once again
here. They have 3v1. Leroy Truffle, is he going to go in for the last hit?
All the slow comes out from Janna, net backwards, but the flash forced out as Dark Dive comes in. Scarcity getting in there. Dark Flight, my bad. But a dive kick nonetheless. Both junglers really good at pressuring so far, and you'll notice that even though Scarcity only has 1 kill, he's like, hey man, I'm snowballing, better pick up offensive items, grabs a Bilgewater Cutlass, as well as for a little bit of a slow if you don't land your Blades of Torment. But not going tanky just yet, will be very offensively minded.
Right, the Blade of the Ruin King, such a strong weapon on Aatrox, synergizes so well with the rest of his kit. He'll most likely go for a, I would expect a Randuin's Omen right after that to just be able to jump into the enemy team, tank up quite a bit, as well as slow the entire enemy team and damage them all. If they focus you, you have your Bloodwell passive, and you also have a very tanky Nunu on your team who's hopefully going to be ulting or at least focusing down an enemy carry. We see Nunu has actually picked up a needlessly large rod, so he's going for the damage here. He really wants to be able to stick on the enemy. And those Ice Blasts are actually going to do quite a bit of damage, as well as the Absolute Zero. If he gets one off, I think we're going to be screaming.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Absolute Zero has a 1-for-1 ratio, so a 100% AP scaling. His ultimate has a 250% AP scaling, so it's just going to be absolutely ridiculous. Gives him more sustain in lane. Doesn't make him tankier, but against Shyvana, her attack speed is going to be slowed by Ice Blast, so the only thing that's going to be dealing damage to Nunu is going to be her abilities, all of which deal magic damage, and so that gives him magic resistance. And now with Shyvana coming back in the lane, you'll notice she picked up a Chain Vest. There's going to be Feel back, forcing out Shyvana's ultimate. The only good thing that did for her is allow her the cleave to clear out the minions faster, the burn on the ground from burn out to help her out there as well. But it's going to have to back away because Feelhawk could just walk up and Ice Blaster for tons of damage, and I'm not sure if she should have picked up a Chain Vest in that matchup. She's trying to build a Tiamat, but I'm not sure where that Chain Vest fits into anything.
Speaking of tons of damage, welcome to Season 2, where we have a Bloodthirster Rush from the Ezreal. instead of the Trinity Force, which is an interesting pickup. He's definitely doing well in this lane, farming up pretty well. But I don't know that it's just quite as good of an item on him when you're not getting out quite as many auto attacks as you are just going for the Mystic, or for the Mystic Shot poke. The bot lane's... Go ahead. Continue. I was going to say the bot lane's definitely going in the advantage here of Airswell, as Ezreal's just out farming the Caitlyn, and now the gank goes down, the Zephyr goes on to Lord Corel, forces the flash out, and that's going to be a successful gank.
Ooh, I'm not necessarily sure that flash was, well, deserved, because Star City would have had to burn his own flash in order to land Dark Flight. Still, better safe than having to burn that flash out. Baldur's Gate actually getting pretty low in that exchange, so it was a good thing Scar City actually showed up down there. Now, top lane, we're looking for some more aggression. Just 1v2ing. Yeah, he's like, hey, if you guys want to come at me, I don't actually mind. He's tanky enough and has enough sustain. The only problem is going to be mana, but with basically unlimited mana from that Chalice of Harmony, it's a good day to be Nunu. And keep in mind, with his Absolute Zero coming up in just a few seconds, he will be able to just hit R if he's 2v1, and as long as there's no CC to bounce him out of that, if Zach uses that a little bit early, it's going to be exactly what the doctor ordered, and you don't want to 2v1 that.
No, absolutely not. That Ice Blast is just definitely keeping him in this lane, just making him such a bully. Oh, he just forces the dragon to send out every time he presses R, and I mean, it's a decent trade for Shyvana, since, you know, it's an ult for an ult, and Shyvana's ult is just going to come up as fast. But it's still just the fear that Feelhawk is instilling in this top lane, continuing pushing down the turret. He's going to get it down unless they can do anything about it, and that'll be a big gold advantage here for Airswell.
Yeah, and you can see Uncle Soviet's ultimate will be up faster than Feelhawk's. That's a good and everything, but at the same time, you don't want to be forced to use that defensively every single time, because that just takes so much pressure off Nunu.
Absolutely, Nunu's just doing an excellent job of farming this up. He's going to have a lot of AP on him after that needlessly large rod. He's here about 30 ahead in the lane. We can see the jungle Aatrox is about 10 ahead. Syndra and Ezreal have both taken advantages over their opponents as well. Right now, Airswell are just kind of choking them out, even though the score is 1-1.
Yeah, and so laning phase works pretty well, but it's not a game about laning phase. It's about objectives, and you can see no turrets down, and we're almost at 20 minutes. Both teams have just been farming this up, and so even though Gpulse are kind of behind, it doesn't actually matter because they're not losing any objectives off of it. No dragons, no turrets. It's just 100% laning phase kind of game. Red buff and the stretching strikes low. Baldur's Gate will throw on the Janus shield and take a lot of damage. Uncle Soviet's actually starting to have enough wave clear to keep himself in that lane, but he's going to have to make it back to base here in not too long. That just means Feelhawk is having a field day as he keeps pushing up top lane.
Right, I figured that Shyvana Chainvest is probably going into a Sunfire Cape. I am not too sure about the Null Magic. It could go into a Wit's End, or even a Hex Drinker if he decides he needs that kind of shield to go up against the Nunu there. Definitely needs something defensively because he is getting...
bouncing in the middle lane. Aatrox immediately popped into his passive. It's a 2v2, but now it's actually Runaway, who could run away back to base, and Chris Master just barely in range. I love that by Scar City, knowing he could go in and die, respawn, and that would just barely bait everybody back in. Notice both junglers had revive passives, so it would have worked the same way for Zach, but as far as their solo laners are concerned, much stronger burst coming out from Chris Master.
Absolutely, Chris Meister definitely knows the ins and outs of the champion, can totally estimate the damage out of there, and didn't take a lot of damage from the Zac and Orianna combo. It was focused on him. So while Aatrox was respawning, that left Chris Meister free to go ahead and claim the kill. Actually, no, the command shockwave didn't even come out that fight.
Yeah, it wasn't even used. He died too quickly and didn't really maybe even have the reflexes to throw it down. Either way, first item is a Zonya's Hourglass for Runaway. Actually even sold her Doran's Ring for that, so I just wanted to make it back in the lane as quickly as possible and needed that itemization to kind of block out this press R burst coming out from Chris Master's Syndra. But with that is, we talked about earlier how it's just straight laning phase up until 20 minutes, and finally we do have a little bit of a change as the first two turrets of the game go to Airswell, top and mid lane, winning that out, and with no outer turrets left in either one of those lanes, you can see Nunu not really returning back to that top lane. Same thing for Uncle Soviet, because they both recognized, hey, top turret's done. We're going to have to make some plays elsewhere. Looks like those will be either on the blue buff or dragon as both teams start to group up.
Absolutely. Nunu wanted to come down here to help secure the dragon. Now, we don't have Aatrox's smite, but it will come up very soon. They do have the consume from Nunu though, to help secure this. If there's a fight, Syndra and Thresh are both back at their respective bases. They won't be present if there is a fight here. We do have the command Shockwave up on Orianna, as well as all relevant ults on both teams. So this could be a very exciting fight if it did pop out. We actually have Airswell potentially backing off this.
Yeah, and so for right now, without Chris Master there, you said Chris Master and Karo were both back in base. So obviously the damage is really not going to be there from Syndra, and that's going to be a lot more noticeable than not having Thresh in a fight. So Airswell back on off. They don't want to just completely throw things away by not coming to play with all of their guns loaded, as it were. But Scar City, I feel like he definitely has the advantage coming in here. He's going to be able to jump in, pop Massacre, and with level 11, he not only has level 2 Massacre, there's Nunu just phase tanking, walking into the entire enemy team, throws down absolute zero, and we'll be able to just auto-attack an Ice Blast, but no, it's mined with the snipe from the back, True Shot Barrage, a double kill, gonna follow up by popping Zack's passive. Zack is trying to respawn, but Mind looking to pick up a triple here. One more blob is all he needs. Killing spree for Mind as the Arcane shifts over the wall, looking to continue the chase. There's an Ice Blast over the wall as now Truffle is not going to have a good time. Takes the Lantern away to safety. I was like, how is Caitlyn possibly going to make it out alive? And it's all up to Kuro. A nice bottom lane synergy. Allows Caitlyn to escape, but at what cost? It's 3-1, and now Dragon will go over to Airswell.
Absolutely, such a well-played team fight there. Feelhawk just really triggering that off with the engage. And the engage there was just walking up to the enemy team and pressing R. But he just does so much damage here with his Rabadon's Death Cat. Oh man, he just completely shredded all of them. Treffle just had to escape from there. He couldn't put that much damage aside from what he got from Ace in the Hole at the beginning of the team fight. And that was so well played. We saw Baldurgate almost completely dying there, but was able to flash away, shield, and stay in the fight. And excellently played Howling Gale at the very beginning. Really instigated that, enabled Feelhawk to be able to run in there. And just overall so well played. They did lose Scarcity, but it was definitely a worthwhile trade.
Yeah, sometimes you do have to be that person that just walks in and dies and allows the rest of your team to pick up all those kills. And he is the jungler, so that will give strength to his lanes and doesn't necessarily impact him as far as dying is concerned. We noticed he had a level advantage before, and he's actually almost at his Blade of the Ruined King's Mind, actually Arcane shifting in. And he's actually flashing under the turret. One more auto attack gets pulled back away from the turret. There's the Flay coming down, but Kuro may have bitten off a little bit more than he can chew. Scarcity coming in from the back. I was a little bit scared there as Aatrox showed up. I was like, okay, no worries. He's on the same team because he did get a pretty nice flank there. Zack was in the area as well, but with nobody to really follow up with. He did have to get out of there. Runaway did not want to 1v1 that Ezreal. Starting to get really scary. So you can see goes back to base and picks himself up a 23-minute Trinity Forest Bloodthirster. I mean, that's cool even without having a Nunu on the team, who besides offering even more temperature reduction from his Ice Blast, is going to heat things up with a Blood Boil that's really going to turn Mind into a monster.
Absolutely. Although the Blood Boil could also definitely go on Scarcity, who at this point, getting his Blade of the Ruined King soon will definitely be a bit of an auto-attack monster.
Oh, Ice Blast on Runaway. Cannot run away, as his name would suggest. Stun under the turret. Flash into the Runaway does live up to his name. 25 HP. Makes it back to base.
Feelhawk really wanted the ult, but he used it earlier. I was a little distracted by watching him clear out the minions on top, so it is still on cooldown.
And there's actually Shyvana go in, the double knockup. There's the AoE engage that Gpulse were looking for. They do bounce everybody around. Now Chris Master having a little bit of a rough time as Alessio trying to get on him. Has the red buff for the permaslow and the stretching strike. That's going to be Aatrox dying once again. Probably not what he wanted. Notice he actually died with just enough gold to pick up his Blade of the Ruined King. So he does have that, and that's cool and everything, but there's the death that is actually landing onto Baldurgate. Box goes down as well, and even with Janna's ultimate, it's just going to set up for another Alessio engage. Janna will fall. Alessio will be forced to flash away as Mind comes into battle. It's Mind and Feelhawk both going to get in there. Feelhawk has a lot to offer.
2v5.
Yeah, 2v5. Can they do it? I'm thinking Feelhawk's going to have a little bit of a bad time. Ice Blast to walk away. Ignite does go down. I'm not sure there's all that much to chase onto Nunu. It's just going to be Shyvana. I think we all know how the Shyvana-Nunu matchup works by now.
Absolutely, the absolute zero. He tried to do it right over the Wraith wall and catch someone, but he couldn't quite get in range. That's two ults in a row that didn't hit anyone, and that was definitely not the play that Airswell wanted out of there. Definitely a great job from G. Oh my goodness, G-Force. There we go.
Pulse,
G-Pulse,
actually.
Pulse. Oh my goodness.
Another thing, just to keep in mind, we saw Runaway make it back to base with 24 HP after getting ulted by Syndra. Runaway had a Zanya's Hourglass, and so at any point in time, could have just hit R and just completely blocked all the Syndra damage. Knew he was going to get away with 24 HP, and it's just like, I have it, but why would I use it if I know I'm going to survive anyway?
And one thing is that when you do press that, that's 2.5 seconds that the enemy has to position around you to finish you off as soon as you come out. And so it could have been the fear that as soon as you get out of your Zanyas, then the entire enemy team is there to make sure you don't survive past that.
And so I guess kind of channeling his inner Ocelot and just going kind of full YOLO. It's like, hey, if I make it out, I make it out. But if not, I'm going to save my Zanyas for a little bit later on.
Active items are for Dota.
I mean, I guess so. We're going to see Zarya's Hourglass as far as one activatable item completed for Gpulse. The other activatable item is going to be, well, eventually, that's Zanya's on Syndra.
We have the Blade of the Ruined King there.
Yeah, Blade of the Ruined King is pretty much the only thing just now. But with your AP mid player having 202 AP and your top lane Nunu having 214, that's going to be a little bit scary. Picking up a giant spell just because, hey, with that Rabadon's death cap, doesn't really need all that much more. Ice Blast lands on a Runaway. That name is just so ironic. Every time he gets Ice Blasted, he just like stands completely still. Like,
I wonder if Nunu's going to go for a Rylai's Crystal Scepter just to be the ultimate nuisance there. Just
it makes it a lot harder to get out of absolute zero, that's for sure.
Absolutely, the Ice Blast is just going to have such a huge slow percentage. It does return less once you reach a certain threshold, but at this point, he can kind of be a little flexible with his build. Oh, actually, the engage.
Yeah, speaking of thresholds, Kuro gonna get in there with a death set. His head is thrown out. There it goes. Lashes onto Syndra, pulls her in, but is able to one-shot Uncle Soviet, who will go down. And there's Chris Master going down as Truffle in the very back, still continuing to be an absolutely huge force. Now Runaway sitting in the back is gonna have a lot of body block for himself. There's actually the 9 caliber net in from Truffle, trying to catch in onto Baldur Gate, but the bottom lane does survive, and almost the exact same team fight in reverse that we saw earlier, where Star City was the only death. This time around, it's Uncle Soviet, and it was a what is that? It's 1-for-3 exchange in favor of Gpulse. Now, really starting to get their sort of wombo combo ultimate combination starting to work out a lot better.
The difference here is that Airswell will be able to just go ahead and regroup here, and that Gpulse did not have the health bars to go and take an objective. They weren't able to go force down a turret, and it's actually going to be Airswell picking up this dragon here. And so they really needed another objective besides winning a team fight, since they are behind this 6,000 gold here. Definitely some major items. And although the team fight win is definitely going to be a good boost of confidence for them, they need something more than that to get back in the game.
So as far as getting back into the game is concerned, I don't necessarily think that it's, huge for either team. They're very even right now as far as turrets are concerned. And if you look at the gold count, it's going to be a little bit more egregious. But team fights, you would not expect Airswell to be so far ahead. There's about 7,000 gold in the lead, and they just walked up and lost a 5v5 team fight. So you gotta know Gpulse, they're doing something right, and in that fight, it was just being the ones to engage. A lot of times when you're behind 7,000 gold, your first thought is not, hey, let's run at the enemy and try to fight them when we're so far behind. But Gpulse knew that they had the engaged advantage just because of their team composition, and they got a nice initiate with the Oriana Ball on top of Shyvana. Uncle Soviet just dove in and Runaway pressed R. It was a nice combo to start things off, and Truffle had the damage to finish the job. Now actually skipping the Phantom Dancer, going for a Last Whisper, starting to see some armor being stacked up.
Absolutely, that's going to be a very good pickup here with the Last Whisper, especially against the Seeker's arm guard there that we have on the Syndra. And actually, not a whole lot of armor on the enemy team, but the base armor is going to be enough to justify that here for Truffle, who's doing a fairly good job at this point, still behind in CS, still behind in kills, but at 230 CS is going to have few of the items that he needs to be able to carry out this game as our AD carry. Shyvana at this point has picked up a Hex Drinker. Is going to have a little bit of AD. He's going for a Tiamat now, and so we'll be able to contribute some damage to these fights. Might need a little bit more survivability after what we saw from the last fight. But ultimately, they did win it. You know, no matter what happens with the items or with the objectives, they won the last fight. Let's see what they can do this next one.
All right, and with the ball on Uncle Soviet once again. Hey, if it worked once, why not try it a second time? You'll see Alessio try to catch anybody out that's waiting in the wings, but right now it's just the long 650 range of Caitlyn continuing to push in every single one of these waves. Now both Dragon and Baron are up. Actually, no, Dragon's not up. It's not going to be up for another 4 minutes. So I'm not sure exactly about that timer. Yeah, 4 minutes until that will come up. And so without wanting to overextend the middle lane, just going to take out another outer tier turret and rotate down bottom lane. It's going to be rough for Airswell to try to stop this because, I mean, Chris Meister's taking down his blue buff very slowly, I might add, and that will give them a 4-on-5 advantage for Gpulse. So they're going to have a very strong push opportunity because it's going to take a long time for Cinder to get back into the picture.
Ooh, the death sentence misses, but this is what Gpulse needs to get back in the picture, is just go ahead and decide, hey, we want a turret, we want 1,000 gold for our team, and then with the initiate, oh my goodness, the excellent the last slingshot into there, but there wasn't a command shockwave to follow it up, at least not on many members. Now they're fighting back and forth. The Nunu dies immediately. Halesio goes down as well, but this is a 1-for-1 so far. LeDroid Truffle, it has to retreat out of this, but now the health bars are over on Airswell's side. Leroy Caro is going to try and run away from this. I don't know if he can. He flashed over the wall. Oh my goodness, but the triple kill. Ezreal's mobility definitely coming into play there. Mind on full health here, getting a triple kill out of that fight.
And that was just a battle of the AD carries. As soon as all of the initiate went down, keep in mind, yeah, Command Shockwave did not land, so that was the big thing about that. If we had seen a Command Shockwave on top of maybe Dissonance underneath and just a nice wombo combo, then yeah, there's almost nothing that can stand up to that. But blowing up Feelhawk at the beginning, while good, I feel like there were much better options to focus in that engage. Notice that Chris Meister, it was actually a good thing that he was so far away because he came into that team fight just late enough to avoid being focused early on and to dish out the damage that he needed. Take out Truffle, take out Runaway, and well, that was just a team fight one for Airswell. So knowing that they now have the advantage when they're initiated on a turret, may want to make them play a little bit more like defensively and get another engage. But hey, if you're winning team fights, you might as well press it home.
Right, yeah. Gpulse at this point can't necessarily muscle down the turrets. They have to take an advantage a little bit better. They did fight that under the turret, which definitely contributed to damage. And I think what happened with the Orianna ult is that I think that Zac jumped out of range of the ball, so it reset on her, and then she pressed R and just ulted herself.
Yeah, she was playing it very, very far back. I'm not sure exactly why. When you have a Zonya's Hourglass, you need to be so scared. So I feel like she could have positioned a little bit more aggressively in the team fight, and that would have kept the ball on Zac and allowed her that shockwave. So definitely something to think about for next fight. Keep your eye on Orianna and make sure that she's in range, because if she's not, that really lessens the way that Gpulse are going to have to play.
Right, we do have Gpulse just so far behind here. They lost the fight. We were talking about how if they were winning the fights, then they could just go ahead and win the game. But after that loss, it's going to be rough to see who can win the fight, because at this point, with the level 18s coming out even from Chris Meister here, ooh, good damage out of the... Oh my goodness! The Howling Gale stopped the Dragon's Descent.
I'm going to have to rewind and check that out.
I think Shyvana went in for the engage, but just like the random Howling Gale stopped her in midair, just popped her right up.
Yeah, anything that does give you a knock-up, give you a dispositioner. It works the same way with Gragas's like explosive cast or Lee Sin's kick. You can actually kick Shyvana out of the air if you've started the kick animation before she lifts off. So it's a lot of shenanigans that can go on. Either way, Uncle Soviet is going to have a little bit of a rough time now without that engage. It's now going to be up to Halesio to initiate. And I actually really like this because Halesio can be at engage similar to Shyvana's Dragon's Descent, but not on such long a cooldown, and still with a lot of potential there. We noticed that he was maxing Stretching Strike earlier on, has opted to max Elastic Slingshot next, so nice to see that he is going to have that maximum range engage. It's something crazy, like, I forget exactly the range of Zac's Elastic Slingshot at max level, but good night is it massive. So we'll see a little bit of a sneaky trap as basically the entire team from Airswell, except for Chris Master, looking to get a nice nice sneaky catch in the brush, but opt for just kind of the brute force way. There's Dragon's Descent. Uncle Soviet going in, looking for a nice opportunity to throw down the ball carrier once again. Howling Gales continue to come out and keep him safe for now, but now Chris Master going to be the target of an ace in the hole. Does not kill him off as it is blocked by Scar City. Mind continue to poke out. Good night, that guy does 1,000,000 damage, 400 attack damage. Is going to have a lot of movement speed. Does up around 450 there, trying to kite away just from Trinity Force and using that rage passive from Sheen. So just running back and forth. Also had Blood Boil in that team fight, so just absolutely ridiculously mobile. Treffle much more A, immobile, B, not as doesn't have that arcane shift, so is forced to walk up to auto attack. Works pretty well at 650 range, but there's so many threats to walk into that even with that range, Treffle wasn't as big a factor in that team fight as Mind was.
The thing is, yeah, Treffle is here on 237 AD, whereas we have Mind up there at 400. I mean, even though Treffle does have a little bit more crit there, coming out with the Infinity Edge, it's still just going to be so much damage coming out from the Ezreal. We saw this Nunu did an excellent job in lane, but past that, hasn't had the opportunity to really come back and make a big impact. The Absolute Zero went nowhere close to anyone that fight, and he really needs to hit a lot of people with that if he's going to justify their Baden's Death Cap pickup.
Yeah, I think the damage early was nice for Nunu, but just blowing up in these team fights and really not having all that much of an impact. I would have rather seen 40% CDR than I would have rather seen a ton of AP, because when you're talking about AP and burst, you've got Syndra on your team. That's going to work really, really well. But for Nunu, I think he does need that CDR just to be ridiculously annoying as far as the Ice Blast, and then more absolute zeros is always going to be a good thing.
Right, if you can get that early large rod, instead of going for their Baden's Death Cap, you can set up for Azanya's. That gives you a lot more opportunity to go right into the fight, absolute zero everyone, and then as soon as you either finish it or it's cancelled, you can Zanya's the damage. And we can see he's playing so far back because besides his Giant's Belt, he doesn't have a lot of defensive capabilities here. He has some magic resist, but that's not going to keep him from getting blown up by Caitlyn auto attacks or even an Orianna here. And so with that, he's just kind of forced to play a little bit too far back, which is not something you can do as a Nunu since you don't have very great range, and the Absolute Zero kind of requires you to be in the middle of everyone.
Just a little bit. There's absolutely zero distance away from you, and it's something to be noticed here for Airswell. They don't have all that much wave clear. It's pretty much just single target. It's going to be up to Syndra primarily to start to push these waves backwards, and other than that, when you look at Gpulse, they actually have tons of wave clear. Orianna, Caitlyn, Zac, even Thresh with Flay and empowered auto attacks is a pretty good way to do that. And then Shyvana, just all wave clearing, pushing monsters, so could be a pretty strong disadvantage as the game goes on. Nunu doesn't have a lot of wave clear to speak of, and you can see that actually help out Uncle Soviet in lane. We're at a laning phase, and now that we've started to see a lot of defensive itemization going in, there's Uncle Soviet, does have the ball on top of him, getting poked out before he even goes in. Zac dives in, does pop Feelhawk out of his Absolute Zero. Uncle Soviet does survive just off of that Hex Drinker in the back, saving his life. And the damage continues. Mind, nobody can take out this AD carry just in the back, dealing all the damage. Stun lands out. It's Feelhawk that takes out Kuro. Double kill for him. And now Chris Master getting a little bit over committed, but a legendary performance by Mind just continues to be absolutely unstoppable in the back of every single one of these team fights.
We have the wet fish fight going down here, Alessio against Baldurgate, but Baldurgate goes the wrong way, and Alessio is going to be able to recall here. He won't be able to defend this inhibitor, though, which is definitely going to be a big pickup off the end of that team fight, which went very, very much there in Airswell's favor. Feelhack did a very good job of finally running into the fight, getting the Ice Blast down on the important targets, and Mind doing work there with the Mystic shots.
It wasn't just Mystic shots. He was actually able to use his incredible move speed from the Blood Boil and just the additional move speed that he gets from having the Rage passive on Trinity Force to actually walk up, auto attack, and then kite backwards. He saw excellent orb walking and mechanics in that team fight, just able to go up and get off way more auto attacks than Truffle did, because Truffle was ice blasted, and on an AD carry with no attack speed steroid, yeah, you're gonna have a bad time if you get withered, ice blasted. Caitlyn, a very strong AD carry in her own right, but very, very susceptible to anti-carries like either Nasus, Malphite, or Nunu in this case.
Ooh, Nunu is able to consume away the red buff, which is actually going to be quite a big advantage here for Airswell, being able to keep that off of the Caitlyn, who really requires that for the kiting in the team fights. Now is relying solely on the 90 caliber net, which is not nearly enough to keep you away from this Syndra, from this Aatrox, and actually the engage.
Oh, Chrismeister forced the Zhonya's almost immediately. He's gonna go down in the middle of 5 people. Does get the ult off, so Alessio's passive will be popped there. It's Feelhawk who will pick up the kill. Star City will flash away and survive, at least for now. Uncle Soviet and the rest of Gpulse has a huge engaged potential. Death Sentence does not land. Uncle Soviet takes a nice shield out there from Runaway, who is actually gonna be forced. The Zonya's out there. Can she take the lantern in time? Does, but as they will be Feelhawk dropping in there onto Uncle Soviet. Mine just does not stop going in. He has one direction, and along with other boy band puns, will be just flashing in there. Look at that Treffle. He just arcade shifted right on top of her with blue buff. That Ezreal will be able to get that arcade shift up. Didn't run away, flashing away, knowing that that arcade shift would have been enough. It's a quadra from Mine to finish off the ace. Wasn't quite a pentakill, but 2 alive is all you need in the base. It will be Airswell after a nice job kiting backwards, and off the back of a 14-0-3 Ezreal.
Oh my god, Mind is
carrying this game out. Absolutely legendary.
MVP here. We're going to have Zach coming in trying to stop this, but I don't think there's any way. Mind has his expected mechanics as he arcane shifts right away, going to continue the auto attacks there, and that's going to be a very convincing game there after a little bit of a comeback from Gpulse, but ultimately Airswell taking it in such a great team fight. 14-0-4 Ezreal though.
Yeah, I mean, top lane Nunu, we were talking about it earlier on, probably should have spent some time focusing on that bottom lane. Almost every single kill coming Ezreal's way, and if you guys are interested in some stats, let me pull this up right here. I think that if you look at the individual contribution as far as percentage of kills, it looks like Ezreal actually contributed, let's see,
Dear Lord.
14 out of 20. He was 70% of his team's kills.
Well, and he was in 18 out of 20 of them. And so there were only 2 kills on the entire map that happened that he wasn't present for.
Yeah, and that means he had a 90% kill contribution, so just absolutely legendary performance there. Definitely deserving that title, and I think that is going to do it for our game. Airswell taking it 1-0 in the series over Gpulse.
Absolutely. I will check to see if we're going to bring you another game, but stay with us. I'll give you guys some absolutely splendid music as we continue on with Teams of Legend.